Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and today I want to hold space for people that may be struggling post election or for people that are open to hearing different perspectives of why some people may be struggling. The goal of this video is to share tips, resources. I do have hope. I do believe that I think as a whole, I think things are gonna be okay. I am concerned about some of the populations that I serve, and I will just share some general tips for those populations. And I am just so grateful for this community. And this past week, so right after the election, what I did was I posted something about grief. It was a general thing about grief. I work with a lot of clients that I knew on Wednesday and for the rest of the week. So y'all don't know my side. So my side of this is I was contacted by multiple clients that needed emergency sessions. I I work with some people that were struggling to eat. They were struggling to sleep. And through our session, through our work, they were able to have a safe space to process their feeling. And at the end of it, I hope they left with some hope, with some resolve. We talked about practicing mindfulness. We talked about their concerns, the things that they were concerned about. And that is what I want to offer here on my channel. And so therapists do. So I have a phenomenal support system, and when I got to work on Wednesday, I didn't have to start sessions. I had a bit of a break in the morning, and the person I rent from, we just hugged. And we were able to talk about how we were doing, our feelings. My husband is I don't so I perceive him as being a prepare for the worst type of person. So my husband had been saying for months that it was probably gonna look like Trump was gonna win. And so Wednesday morning, I wasn't completely surprised. It wasn't that I hadn't prepared myself at all. And when I went to bed, it wasn't looking great. So and then when my husband came to bed, he was like, "Yeah, it's probably not looking great." And then that Wednesday morning, I checked my phone. I knew what it was, and my concern and what I'm also going to talk about is for the children, because I was extremely heartbroken. There are and high school students that are really scared. And so I also want to talk about how parents can talk with their children as well. I waited until I got home on Wednesday. So I did all of my sessions, I did all of my clinical work. And then when I got home on Wednesday, I watched Kamala Harris's um I watched Kamala Harris's um concession speech. And if you have not watched her concession speech, especially if you are feeling fearful or if you're feeling a certain way, I would really encourage you to watch her speech because I think it was really powerful. And the reason why I didn't watch it during the day, because I was concerned when I watched it that I was gonna fall apart. Like I was just like, oh, I really struggled. And so I work with marginalized groups. And so the groups that I see that are struggling the most um, just so happen to be Black women and members of the LGBTQIA plus community. And I work with some people that are impacted by immigration. And I work with people that have children with severe disabilities. And for my clients that have children with severe disabilities, my state, so Virginia is a pretty decent state for education. And I don't believe that IEPs are going to go away forever. I think individual states may be able to choose what they do and don't do. So if I lived in Mississippi, I might be a little bit, because Mississippi already has one of the worst education systems in the United States, and that's based on their federal requirements. And because the state is able to create their test to adhere to federal requirements, and so if the federal requirement went away and I lived in Mississippi, I would definitely have some feelings. And I really want to normalize. So me and Kurt, I know that we have different political beliefs, but I think being able to have difficult conversations in a balanced and measured way, I think that is really important. So I am an independent, because I think a lot of people, based on my post, I think people made assumptions. I am technically a registered Republican in the state of Virginia. I registered back in 2000 or 1999. I think I turned 18 in 2000. So it would have been in 2000. And so I think people make assumptions, and I am one. So I watch both conventions. I hear everything from both sides. Now, Kurt, so I did vote for Kamala, and part of what hurt me as a person, because we're holding space for how people feel and for what people are going through. What hurt me just watching is I am a very qualified psychologist. I am extremely qualified. There are people that if they talk to me on the phone, if they don't Google me on the internet, based on my voice, they make an assumption of what I look like. And I've seen people be disappointed when I open the door and I'm Dr. Barry. I have been in court to testify as an expert witness. And when I stand up, when they call Dr. Barry, I've seen the bailiffs kind of give a look like, oh, like, 'cause so while I was sitting there, they made assumptions about who I was and why I was there, and the idea that I was a psychologist, that never crossed their minds. And so, I have some lived experience. I've also lived in areas with an active KKK. So there's an area of Virginia called Poquoson, and in Poquoson, when I in 1999 and in 2000, when we would have track meets in Poquoson, our coach would tell us, for the black students, do not walk around by yourself. If you need to go to the bathroom, take a white student with you. Like I when I was 17 years old, we were told to do this. So I know what it's like to live in an area where you don't feel safe. I worked at McDonald's, and by myself, I had to drive to another Poquoson. I had to drive to a McDonald's in Poquoson, and I was concerned. So they still have active KKK rallies in Virginia. Like, these are things that still happen. When I lived in Germany, we would be told on a certain weekend, because the Nazi party in my area, they would have an initiation, and we were told, don't go to the pool this weekend because they're actively looking for, like, don't. So there would be a special weekend, it would be known, and so things were overall fine. But there are people that have concerns, and so that's where I just want to create safe space. So I love cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms are by far my absolute favorite flower, and that's what is behind me. Um, some people will say that therapy should not be, like, how do politics and therapy, what kind of happens with that? And now for my clients, so I support. So if Kamala had won, I would have had some clients that needed support, that needed to process. I am there for all of my clients. But when we talk about therapy being political, I want to share my screen. All righty. And so when I say this, it does not mean, sorry, wait a minute. I shared the wrong one, I think. Okay, here we go. This one. So when I say that therapy is political, because there's some people that are like, you're a psychologist. Why are you even speaking on this? Or I don't know. People sometimes have thoughts and opinions, which, okay. But what's not okay is a therapist talking about politics when the client does not want to. So, with all of my clients, the way that I approached it is like, "Hey, the election happened. How are you doing?" And for my clients that were like, "Oh, I'm doing fine." Like that's and we went on with okay. And but for my clients that were struggling, and a lot of those were the ones that reached out to me if they weren't already scheduled this week, if we hadn't already talked about pre-election anxiety, then for those clients, I just in therapy created safe space for them to talk about how they were feeling. Um, I don't ask my clients who they vote for or their political opinion. So when I'm working with a client, I don't care who they vote for. Now, if I have a client that's actively being racist to me, then that's a whole other situation. And I have not experienced that since being licensed. Normally, if for whatever reason somebody doesn't want to work with me, which can be for a variety of reasons, I help clients find a new person. So I had one individual that I was pretty sure we weren't a good fit. But part of the reason why I think we weren't a good fit, I think a part of it was because of, I think seeing me as an educated Black woman, I think she had trouble working with me. And so I gave her recommendations for other clients that I thought might be more appropriate for her because she let me know this wasn't the right fit. I gave recommendations and we moved on from there. And therapists, I don't try to sway clients' political ideologies, how they like that's not appropriate. I don't unnecessarily initiate political discussions in therapy that are unrelated to the client or the presenting problem. And then I don't discriminate against clients that hold different political beliefs. All right. Now, what therapy is political does mean is that I recognize the socio-political influence that impact clients. So I work, I don't know if you all know this, but LGBTQ clients have the highest rate of unaliving themselves. And so me being able to, I have particular people in my mind that if certain protections go away, I would really be concerned about their mental health. And so as a therapist, I have I have I'm about equity and for all. Like that's my goal. And there are people that have differing beliefs. That's not the goal of this stream. When I have somebody coming to me with certain issues and certain problems, my goal is to support them and their mental health. I also recognize that people in my therapy room are influenced by outside systems. And so I've worked with people that had undocumented parents or that had undocumented um, significant others or things like that. And going into 2025, clients that I work with that are in that situation, I'm going to have conversations with those families of, okay, what's the plan for if they were like, so if I'm working with a child and both parents are undocumented, then we're gonna have to have a because a lot of parents say they have a plan for their child to stay in the United States and the parent returns to their country of origin. And which completely like it's a big thing for families. And so I really, really try to just create safe space for everyone. And if I'm working with somebody that has a partner that's undocumented, there and so that's where Their fear that their partner might be deported, that's a rational fear. I don't know that it'll happen the way that people are fearing that it might happen. I know from 2016 to 2020, during Trump's during his first, what's the word? His first term, in my state, what happened is there were a lot of fears within the Latino and then also within Muslim communities. Because in my state, in my area, there would be ICE agents that would show up to mosque, that would show up all these different places, that would be checking people's documentation, checking their status. If somebody is a part of a certain group and they are legal, they might need to carry around their documentation because sadly, like there is a chance that somebody could get caught up in a situation. I personally know of a situation where someone was born in Japan, but both of their parents are American citizens, and like they ended up like they the state was trying, not Virginia, it was Colorado. Colorado was trying to deport them because they were born in Japan, but they have United States, like they're a US citizen. They had American parents, they have a social security number, social security card, and it got to the point where we had to reach out to the consulate in Japan to confirm yes, they were born to American parents and all, like they had the consulate in Japan had to confirm everything that everybody else was saying. And so there are certain groups that I think are concerned. I want to make myself big for this next part. Yep, uncivil law, and I know the situation very close because um, so what the person they had a probation violation, and but they were Colorado was trying to deport them, but they were a United States citizen. They were born on an Air Force base in Japan. They were very much, and they're African American. They're not Japanese. They're and I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because it was just so odd, but there was an infrastructure in place that was all about deporting criminals. And so this person just so happened to check a box of being born in a foreign country, but they were a United States citizen. They they were born on an Air Force base in Japan. And okay, it was a whole thing. And so this is where I am. So I am not giving up. There are things that I am passionate about, and there are things that I think a lot of people agree with. So based on some of the ballot measures that went through on Tuesday, there are the state of Arizona. I could pull it up, but I'm gonna try to say it off the top of my head. There were multiple states that added the right to a abortion on their, like, to their constitution, or like they made it a state law. And but those same states voted for Donald Trump, but they also voted to to secure those rights. The majority of Americans believe in, at some point, say the life of the mother. In cases of R or incest, there are a lot of people that that do believe that there should be some exceptions. There should be, or maybe they don't believe in late term, but they believe, at a certain, but beyond 6 weeks. So at 6 weeks, most people who are pregnant don't even know. I'm one of those odd situations where I did take a pregnancy test on the day I was supposed to start my period, and that's when I found out that I was. It's not in my state either, and so that's where in my state we're going to work on governor. So we're going to work on politically, making sure that there is a governor in office that is willing to support things that are important to the majority of Virginians. And so Um, so I'm not gonna leave the country, okay? So I love this country, and I honestly so I do think if you are an immigrant, if you are trans, if you are in a state that does not have that does not have certain rights. So I think some people are probably going to move to California. I've already heard that for trans rights, and specifically, the state of California is actively working on how they can protect. I think federal funding for gender affirming care, and so there isn't federal funding for the surgeries unless the person is incarcerated, and that would only be like life's like that would be rare. That would be really rare. But I think there is some federal funding that goes to hormones and things, and so I think that that could be a thing. But there are organizations that are actively collecting money, that are doing what they need to do to make sure that people can have access to care. Um, uh, and, um, and I feel like that's more of a financial so with health insurance coverage for birth control, I think it might be a requirement for that to be there. So right now, I think health insurance companies are required to cover birth control. There are some healthcare companies, or there are certain religious organizations that want to be exempt, so that they want to be able to offer healthcare to their staff that may not include that, because of certain religious beliefs. And so I think the majority of insurances will continue to offer it. I believe that's what'll happen. We can come back to this if we need to. I think every person, if you're eligible to get a passport, I think it's just good to have a passport. I miss some of that conversation. So I am a hopeful person. Okay, so like that is my natural, but I'm also realist. Okay, so that's where um in in my state, they ended up getting rid of they wanted parents to approve, like, the curriculum for schools, because a lot of parents were concerned, even though critical race theory has never been taught at the K through 12, stages. That was something that was how, we ended up with the governor that we ended up with. Um, but being able to just and that's where each person is going to make their decision. I'm letting you know I am going to continue to advocate for the things that are important to me. I am if s- if if our if President-elect Trump decides to, let's say he does try to make a federal abortion ban or something, there will be lawsuits, there will be people, there will be a legal fight. And that's what happened the last time too. So I think we can do both, and I agree with you, Sarah. And then also, so I don't wanna have that anticipatory fear of everything and all of the uncertainty. I have to focus on what I do know, on what I do have. I have to think about what I can control, what I can do, and then be able to move forward. I did wanna talk about holding space for people, and holding space is a practice of making space for someone else's experience and centering them. And that's what this is what I wanted to do for people that were having difficulty with the result. I wanted to center those people. So now, Dr. Barry, why aren't you having a stream to center people who are okay with this? And my, so those, there, that doesn't like, I'm here to help and support, like somebody that's okay. I don't need to hold a space for that. Like, so Kurt had a celebration stream. For anybody that's happy, you can go check out Kurt's celebration stream. I'm here. There I was my comment section was flooded with people in despair, with people that were hurting, with people that were in pain, and, I can't help those people, like, so I am here for general education. This is not therapy, but I can just let people hopefully feel seen and heard. And please also know, so I turned off replay on the comments. So this comment section right now, that's this live comment stream, this is just for us today. And I have videos, sorry, I have videos talking about religious trauma. Religious trauma is very real. Um, my brain got a little messed up with purity culture stuff, but that's a whole other video. And just so you all know, so I am a Christian. Does that make like so I but I'm very liberal, and somebody got mad the last time I said that. They were like, "What's a liberal Christian?" I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And and so feelings aren't facts. And I want to take a breath and focus on what I do know, what I can do, and what is going to happen. And then also, I don't want to give up. So, to me, and so that's why I personally am not going anywhere. Now, if I had a child that was that was trans, or if I had certain situations, then I might have a different situation. So I'm just telling you what I am doing, my thing. Um, we talk about so I don't. So we're supposed to have separation of church and state. Like that's we're supposed to have that. Like Christians aren't supposed to like it's supposed to be separate. Like that's why we have the United States because they were mad at England. So in England, you I think had to be Catholic or something like you the the legal and church, like the church was the ruling body and they didn't like that. And like it's a whole thing. We have to teach history. We have to teach real history. For anybody that is talking about uh for anybody that let me just make sure. Oh, whoa. Wow. So sorry that you're experiencing that, Liz. So um and then I want to answer this question. How do you reconcile those you care about voting for things you view? So I'm going to read the question again. Oh, so Sarah. So I know of somebody that I really care about that definitely voted for Trump, and they kind of believed some of the fears and beliefs. I have a video for parents of LGBTQ youth. There are a lot of misconceptions with gender and all those, like there are a lot of misconceptions. I tagged, I have a video down in the description where I kind of go through that. Each person has to decide who they can have in their space. If it's somebody that's very close to me, if it's a parent, if it's somebody that's very close, that's where each person decides what role they can play in their life. Now, um, if I had someone in my family that was racist, I would not bring my child around that person. That's not safe for my child. If I had somebody in my family that was incredibly, I don't know, like whatever the word is, I would make whatever decisions I would for me and my family. Um, so my goal just as a person, so my faith and my spiritual walk, some of the some of the people, okay, I'll just say it. Some of the most hateful people, like, claim to love Christ. I do not have any fish on my car because I drive interesting. It's fine. I'm told y'all I'm kind of a like, I don't get I've never gotten in trouble for how I drive, but I might not have gotten caught. So I'm a very like, I don't drive like a Christian. I'm not, "Oh, get in. Oh, whoever wants to get in, get in." I'm like, "No." I say, "Hit me if you want." Like that's what like you saw that lane was ending 2 miles ago. Like the sign that that lane was ending has been coming up for a while. So I do not drive like a Christian, so I don't have anything Christian on my car. I just don't. I do not some of the most hateful things I've ever heard and some of the most racist things I've ever heard was while I was attending Regent University, Pat Robertson School. Um, uh, my professors were amazing. What I learned there was amazing, but some interactions that I had with other students, things that I heard on campus was to me was not showing the love of Christ in my own personal opinion. And I think people should know, I don't know, like I think that scripture that they'll know you by like how you treat them. Like I think that's important. And that's not the exact scripture, but yes, it's a whole thing. All right. You said it, not me. So not rage. I don't like so to me, road rage is like driving somebody. Like I don't drive anybody off the road, but I don't like let them merge in front of me unless I'm feeling like really generous that day. I do not. So cuz that can get you shot. So I'm in Virginia and like so like those Pennsylvania drivers and those Maryland drivers and those New York drivers. So I'm in Northern Virginia. Like I don't So I don't curse at people. I don't yell and scream at people. I was at the light the other day and the light was green, no lie, for like 20 seconds. And so I honked once, the person didn't go. I honked like 2 times, the person didn't go. The people behind me start honking. And so I'm like, what like they won't go. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the person was doing. It was a whole thing. And so, yay. And so I love this. Uh, and so, uh, uh, all right. And I don't throw any one group into I don't think any one group is a monolith. So, um, that's how I feel. I think one of the worst things that could happen to us as a country is to allow this to divide us to where we stop listening to one another, to where we can't have a reasonable. Now you have to decide the person you're talking to, are they willing to listen? Are they? So there were some people, the picture I posted just with general tips of grief, there were some people whose comments just got deleted. Like it was just like this isn't and there was one person cuz like the comments kind of got a little hateful like from and it was somebody that was I think pretty liberal but like the language that was being used, I wasn't comfortable with hosting that on my page. So I did get rid of that. And then I think that there are foreign actors that try to come in to split us up as well. So I think some of the thing like we know that other countries try to like we know that other countries try to interfere because the way that you can break a country is from within. That's one of the best ways to to break a country. Now, so if the person is coming from a lens of they are going to spew hate and racism and all that, then I can't have a conversation. I think there are some people that are willing to listen and are willing to hear different perspectives. So I think honestly, if we think about why Donald Trump won, I think some people thought the economy and immigration. They because of the way things so like the economy is good right now. Like it's just it's fine. It is. Like if you look at the actual numbers, like the economy but people didn't feel that way because and the costs are starting to come down but they're still really high, and so people felt that, and some people didn't even realize that Kamala Harris was running, so, if you actually look at the numbers, if you actually how's the economy? United States. So I'm smiling a little because um do we believe nerd wallet? Is that like what would be a neutral thing that we would kind of believe? Um like if you actually look at the numbers of the US economy, um uh unemployment is at one of the lowest levels it's been in a long time. Do we believe usfacts.org? Do we believe that organization? Uh, okay, I'll share this right here. Um, and I'm making those noises because I'm special. I just am. Um, let's make this bigger. So let's close this. And so okay. So this is the Federal Reserve. Okay. So let me go back up. Inflation. So inflation was way up. What's this? 2022. Inflation was at 8-9%. And it's actually coming. It's coming back. It's trending down. It is. Um hmm. I'll put this in the chat if people want to come back and take a look at it later. Um, so please go uh, to sources that you trust, to organizations, but not one that has a particular political bent. Yeah, BBC. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Um, hmm, somebody's, and so I just think as long as we can hold people accountable for, okay, like these are the things, these are the changes, these are the things that we want, I think we move forward. Let me know if y'all have questions. I do think making sure to take care of your mental health. You might need to turn off certain news. You might, especially if the news you're watching is all just um things are gloom and doom and the worst thing ever. I would try to find something that is also sharing some of the hope. So I don't like it that our news stations, they make money based on how much we watch. And with us watching, what can happen is bad news catches attention over good news, and saying, "Stay tuned for all of these horrible things that are happening and that are going to happen," it can commodify our attention. It can make our attention come to a place where we end up, having all kinds of things. Question, I'm in the UK, and I was wondering if you think Trump got so many votes because folks would rather so um, uh, I don't know how the race would have been run if and I if Joe Biden had stepped down like, if the Democratic Party had had a primary as well, and if they picked the best candidate based on the primary, because it might not have been her. So whoever came out of that, it might have been somebody else that ran against him. Um and so I think there's a lot, but we are where we are, and we have to move forward now. I appreciate how she accepted the results, and um they are going to work with Trump to have a smooth transition. There will be a smooth transition of power. And so that gives me hope for our country. Uh January 6th, 2020, I was at my office in session, and I had clients that were watching the insurrection happen. And They were so anxious, like, they had to know because the Capitol it was actively under siege. That was not a peaceful transition of power. Trump never conceded losing the 2020 election, and, if he had lost, I don't think he would have conceded. I think he would have said it wasn't fair and that people cheated, and so I hope that some of that can come out of our politics because before the numbers were already out, there were all these rumors that people were faking. I don't know, like, it was all this stuff happening. And so you were teleworking. Wow. And I was at the office because I think that was before everything shut down. No, 2020, 2024. My brain and year. Yeah, it was 2020. So I was definitely at the office. I remember the clients that I was in session with. And so I still believe that in the United States, we do have checks and balances. We'll see what happens with the House. The House is still, last time I checked, but Trump had the House and the Senate in 2016, and there were still certain requirements. There were still certain things, um, and so it's a whole thing. Yes, yes. I think that's legally what's required. Um, and so I didn't I didn't say that. And so um all right. That never but maybe other people. And so um and maybe people are going back and forth in the chat. And like I said, this chat is going to disappear once this is done. So my goal here is for people to be able to have some hope, to be able to know what they can do, the power that they do still have, and to still make sure to not give up, to that they can talk about the things that are important to them. I so back to people being concerned about education. What I think might happen with education is that states might get more power. I am going to watch to see um, if Elon Musk pushes for self-driving cars, because with self-driving cars, if the car is in an accident and it's in self-driving mode, I think there are questions of who should be responsible. Because if the car is in self-driving mode and it's the car's fault, then what, like, because a lot of people would then want to sue the car company. They would want to hold the car company accountable. And I'm just going to watch to see if self-driving mode does become available. Do insurance companies, are they going to have a warning of if the car is in an accident and it's in self-driving mode, like whose fault? Like they're going to have to work out that piece of it. So I told y'all I have lived in Germany before. I love the Autobahn. I think it's one of the most efficient highways. I haven't driven on it because I haven't been back to Germany since 97. So 97 was the last time that I was in Germany. And but if you're driving over 120 kilometers and you're in an accident, it's automatically your fault. That's how it was back then. I don't know if they ever changed that. But and so I'm just talking about some of the legality of things, because I do think Elon Musk really wants to push for self-driving options. If you all, so my husband watches the um, what is the like Tesla event, and he follows. Is it Marquez? I think that's his name. There's a famous YouTuber. I think his name is Marquez. He follows all of that stuff, and But when they were practicing out the self-driving mode, they had the street completely shut down. They were pre-entered coordinates, and that's kind of what was happening. Because I think in most states, it's still not legal to have a car in completely self-driving mode, and you don't have the hand on the steering wheel or things like that. Because sadly, there have been accidents, there have been fatalities with that. And so, yeah, he's 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 super smart, and that's where so my husband is a big math guy, and so he was checking the polls a lot, and he was looking at everything, and that's where he was just letting me know, like, the numbers, like, because I was looking at the positive things, because that's what I do. But my husband was making sure to, um to do those things. And then there are protective things in place, because there have been reports that there will be agencies that go away, or there will be things that happen, and, some of those things will need Congress to do, and so making sure to have a oh, thank you, Kurt. Making sure uh, that those elected leaders also hold everyone accountable. I think that's important. Um, so I do this because some people have had bad experiences with therapists in therapy. Um, Somebody that was very conservative might not come and see me. They might see my social media. I have pride flags in my office. And so there might be some people but like that might not want to work with me based on their assumptions of what I think and what I believe, but it's okay. And I think everybody should have choice. So there are Christian counseling centers. There are counselors that specialize in specific religions or in certain beliefs. What I personally do is with any client I work with, I consider their culture. I consider them as an entire person, and I provide the services they need. That's what I do. And uh yeah, and so does mine. So does mine. Mine hosts a series on um what is it? I think it's like I forget what it's called, but there are specific things that my church does as well. I've talked before, I'm not sure if my church is affirming, so I've never heard of my church doing a gay marriage, because that is an affirming space. If a church marries people, then it's affirming. I know my church is accepting, but I'm not sure if and so I don't know who gets married so it's just not something that's public knowledge. My church has over, I think, like it might be like 20,000 members. I don't know. I go to a very large church. I mostly watch online. And my pastor talks about social justice and about things that are important to me as well. And so I feel like I'm in a safe spiritual place, which is important for people. There might be people that decide, so there might be some things like affirmative action or certain DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion things that go away. And so I don't believe that there should be quotas where like a company has to hire a certain number of this group or that group or the other. I know when I got into Virginia Tech, when I was accepted, affirmative action at the college level was still accepted, because what year was the first because it was illegal for Black students to attend Virginia Tech. First Black student, and so the first Black student that attended Virginia Tech was in 1953. Uh, Irving Purdue, Pedro, sorry, Pedro, Irving Pedro. It was in 1953. and the first to graduate. So that individual, he had to live off campus. It was probably a pretty, I it was a, probably a, I can't imagine what it was like for him when he was on campus. And then Charlie Yates was the first African American student to graduate from Virginia Tech in 1958. And so uh, let's say if I got into Virginia Tech, and if one of the reasons why was because my ancestors legally couldn't attend, like, like maybe or whatever, or whatever reason. Let's say if that was a part of it, uh, being Black wouldn't keep me at Virginia Tech. So I had to do my coursework. I had to do my classes. I graduated magna cum laude from both. So magna is just, I think it was 3.4. I was like point 0.1. I was really close to summa. I was so mad that I wasn't summa cum laude. I was really, really close. But I graduated magna cum laude. I know my stuff. I know my stuff. And for people that watch my videos, that watch my content, most of my videos, I don't put my face on the video because there are people that won't click on my video if they see me there. And I think a part of that is bias. I think a part of that is like, and um, I am extremely qualified. I know what I know. I also admit what I don't know. I'm not an expert in absolutely everything. But, I know there are positions that I've had in the past where I interviewed and I got it, and in the back of someone's mind, they might have thought, "I wonder if she got it because she's Black." And, I work hard. Something that some people might not know, within the Black community, you are taught to work twice as hard to get to, like, just where somebody else is. I always worked so hard. I always went above and beyond. I when you watch me stop myself, so my mom was when my mom was born, segregation was legal. Okay. So, when my mom was born, legal segregation was legal, and she was a part of the first class to integrate. And a part of what my mom did and what I saw my mom do was don't rock the boat, because rocking the boat can literally cause you to not live. like that's what can happen. If you're ever in Washington DC, I really encourage you to if you ever visit Washington DC, I really encourage you to check out the African American History Museum. If you have never been, the African American History, I'm going to pull up a picture of the African American History Museum in Washington D.C. It's a free museum. You have to get tickets, so you can't just show up and walk in. I don't believe you have to. Um, but they have done a phenomenal job. Um, and what you do is, if you do the tour, like if you start at the basement and work your way up, you start at the worst of the worst. I will also tell you that there is an Emmett Till exhibit in in this museum. I have never, I did not, I know Emmett Till's story. Um, the day I went, I was pregnant with our son, and pregnant people have to be aware of their stress. So the day I went to tour the museum, I didn't go into that part of the exhibit. But this is a museum for everyone. It is a great way if you want to just go and see and learn. Um, the first African American, Kamala Harris wasn't the first African American to run for president. Shirley Chisholm was the first African American to run, a woman to run for president. And there's just some phenomenal history. There are some phenomenal things. I think it's pretty awesome. And so that's what. So blue plastic. What s- I think what may happen is that there may be requirements of what the federal government will pay for. Now, if somebody's doctor has them coded as receiving it for other medical reasons, because sometimes what can happen is somebody can be prescribed hormones for a variety of reasons, a variety of things. People can provide people can be on things for. And so this is a real concern depending on your state that this could be a different thing. I think talking with your doctor. So your doctor will be able to advise you and talk with you and be able to move you through. And I welcome so I don't so me and Kurt, like I said, we don't agree, but we can be respectful of one another, and we can be because I watched his election celebration because I just wanted to see somebody else's perspective. Part of that is the clinician in me. Okay, so as a clinical person, because when I have clients that want to talk about, that they're happy about, I don't know, like if I had clients that I had to support with that perspective, I wanted to have a good understanding of what that could be like. Because of the work I do, a lot of it is just different. Washington D.C. is pretty good. So yeah. Diana, so I started at the beginning with the fact that I wanted this conversation for us to center the voices of people that are struggling and hurting right now. And so just for today, just did. I wanted to make sure that I was able to help and address people that are hurting. This is hard. Let me know if y'all have any last questions, if y'all have any last things. And I think encouraging encouraging having an open mind, encouraging people to look into things for themselves. I think that is really, really important. I think that is important. Um, all right. And so all right. There is so Lisa, I don't know if you follow Raquel Martin, and I'll make sure to put it on here. Dr. Raquel Martin. She hosts a space specifically for women of color. She is phenomenal. We are mutuals over on Instagram, and I'll put it in my description as well. But Dr. Martin talks a lot about social justice, and she says things in a way that's like better than how I could ever say things. Um, and so I want to share this tab instead. So Dr. Martin, she provides phenomenal resources and tools, and she's created safe spaces too. Yeah, she has a Burn the Cape support group, specifically for African American women. You got it. All right, there you go. Before I go, I want to talk about talking with kids. And before I did this stream, I specifically talking with kids. So what do we do? Because we talked about the election earlier today, didn't we? Yes. And we talked about who won. Yeah. And did you really care who won or who didn't win? Yeah, you really didn't care who won or who didn't win. And you really didn't hear people talking about it at school. Yeah. And so are you gonna go play and have fun? Okay, you can go play on the iPad, okay? Okay, have fun. So, if you all just heard the conversation that I had with my son earlier today, because I hadn't asked him. I was like, "Did you?" Because my son's 7, and at the elementary school level, and I work with a lot of kids on that that I work with a lot of kids that are from 6 all the way up until through adults. And, I'm hearing mostly, like, anxiety and stress in middle and high school students. And, my elementary school kiddo, he's he's happy. He's fine. And I showed him a picture of the 2 people that were running. I told him who won, but this was after I managed my emotions. So if he had picked up that I was upset or that I was upset about something, I think he might have picked up on mommy being upset and thought that maybe he needed to be upset too. So I waited until I had kind of now if he was 12 or if he was older and if he was also struggling, we would have had a conversation back and forth. It would have looked a little different. So at the elementary school level, if your kiddo doesn't like if they're just living their life, I'd let your kiddo live their best life. It is what it is. Um uh uh and we live in a my son has a safe teacher. I trust his teacher, and, he has mm, his school is okay. His school is okay, but I trust his teacher. My kiddo is 7 years old, and so far he's in 2nd grade, and so far he has had 2 African American teachers, and, I think I had 2 African American teachers in my entire K through 12, like, experience, and, our area is very diverse. His school is very safe, and we are happy with where we are. For people that aren't in that situation, that do have concerns, I think you're going to have a different conversation with your kids. Kids notice racial differences beginning at like 4 and 5, like very young. So kids notice racial difference young. And then kids can also internalize that black is bad very young. Both African American kids and like they've done the study. It's called the doll test. Kids can internalize messages about white being good and black being bad very, very young. And I am saving some of the questions because we are kind of talking. I'm talking about the kiddos right now first. And with those studies, a lot of the parents were surprised, especially like some of the white parents were very surprised that their child had the impression that the darker the skin, the dumber the person was. That it meant that they were bad. Like those are things that can be that young kids can think. And so it's important that kids see, doctors that are multicultural, that kids have books, that they have dolls that are multicultural. And then for kiddos that are part of the global majority, making sure that they are not internalizing. So a person's skin color does not make them good or bad. Race is a social construct. Race was created to enslave a group of people. Like that's why we have race. Now, I have racial identity. I do identify as a black woman, but I also know I might have more in common with a white person from Europe than I might have in common with another African American person. Like it's just uh when you look at genes, race is not genetic, it is a social construct. Now, culture, so people's identity and all those things is important. I had to take a DNA test to figure out what my racial makeup was because my family came from um, my family, my African ancestors, we could not trace it back to a particular country because those records do not exist. We can't go back further back than my great great grandmother. I think my great great, yes. I think great great grandmother is the furthest we know generationally, just because um, Black people were viewed as property, and they weren't able to own their children. Like, there were it's a whole thing, it's a whole other video. I have a video linked about racism down below if you'd like to know about that as well. Um, but, talking with kids, because there's some kids that are scared, and what they're afraid of is, somebody in school saying, "You deserve to pick cotton," or, a Mexican American student being told to go back to their country, or things like that. And so we have to be real. The children are listening, okay? The children are listening to the way that we talk about this and the way that we handle it. And it is important, because you can't tell someone's citizenship status by looking at them. You can't. And there are children that are that that are, and even if they're not a US citizen, you still children shouldn't be saying things like that. Like, that's hurtful. They shouldn't. But those types of statements, that can cause children to experience a lot. And so often it is important that we talk to our kiddos. Our kids' school just came out of anti-bullying week. And so it's important that we be kind. And that's what I'm trying to model here, that we can disagree and still be respectful. And that so I don't know who sent that, okay? So I've heard that this exists, and I still think that there are foreign entities that have hopped in that might be trying, because I think they're trying to figure out where that message came from. I don't know where that message it said it was from. So until I hear somebody say that, yes, that's where that came from, I don't want to jump to assumptions, about things. And then Patricia mentioned, when your son was 7, he brought his friend home for tea, and my friend, who is Black, was at my house, and my son's friend asked why they had a brown face. Aw. My son said, uh, "Because her grandma lived in a sunny country." And so I do think kids understanding that, racial difference, we still acknowledge it. It just doesn't make somebody better or worse than anyone else. I remember my son, one of his best friends in pre-K just so happened to be white. And so my son was like, "I wanna be, white like that friend." And, I remember when I was, like, 7 or 8, I'm pretty sure I've told this story here before. There was a little girl that lived near me, and, I think her grandparents were pretty racist. This was in, like, a small town in Georgia, and, but I know the parents weren't, because the parents let her play with me. The parents let her come over to our house. I never went over to her house because my mom wasn't like my mom, like, she came over to our house. I didn't go over to her house. But one day she was sitting at the table with my mom is very dark skinned, and with me, and the little girl says, "I don't like Black people." And my mom was like, "Sweetie, what do you think we are?" And the little girl was like, "Oh, you're white like Patrice." And I'm just sitting here eating my food, eating my food. And my mom was like, Patrice was white when she was born. So I think what happened is, this little girl, she told me, "Oh, I don't like Black people." And I think I told her, "I'm not Black." I think I was 7 or 8. I didn't understand race. My family always told me that I was white when I was born. So I was like, I was really gullible at a very early age. And I ended up, so that's my story of how I had a racist friend as a little girl, who I was able to convince that I was not. Yeah, it's just the innocence. And so, like, it was what it was. If you have middle school kids, I would encourage safe spaces within their middle school. If you have kiddos that are LGBTQ, if you are in a safe state, if you are in a safe school, them finding places and people that they can be safe with. There's some people where it's not going to be safe for them to come out, for people to know how they identify or how they feel, and they may stay, um, because it might not be safe. When I'm working with people that are not, that are LGBTQ, that are not out to their family, that are not out, to different people, we talk about the safety of it. Because I've worked with some people that their family would not be accepting of them if their family knew. And so, like for them, they weren't able to be fully honest with their family members. And I think so yeah, so we just talk about that. And uh and I think the problem comes is when we don't grow, when we know better. Uh, and I hope that we don't lose the lessons that we've learned along the way. And I do think that we can hopefully have safe spaces where we can have conversations, that we can come together. Because and that's once it so I told y'all that I'm an optimist, and I do think it's a small percentage of people that um that maybe do have that maybe aren't going to be safe. But I do think there are some people that definitely will. I think there are people that we have more in common than we have apart. Like it's just like why can't um and then I'm also reminded of oh, what is it? It's a famous poem. Y'all probably know it. Um the poem that came out of the Holocaust that said they came for me. And with that poem, it says, first they came for the communist, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came out for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And that's where I say, that is a very famous poem. It's called First They Came is it by Pastor Martin? It starts with a M. It's with an N. Um, Niemöller, because I think it's German. But I want to speak out and be there for people that may not have as strong a voice, that may need somebody to speak out for them. I am heterosexual cisgender. Does that so like so m- I don't know if I sometimes say partner just to I'm married to my husband, like I'm married to a man, but I sometimes say partner because there are some people that it's a woman talking about their wife and they don't have the same space that I have. And so I try to speak up for marginalized voices and marginalized groups because if they come for me, I want you to speak out. Does that make sense? And so like I I do have hope. I will speak out. I am not giving up. And uh I that's just where we are. Uh all right. So let's go to some of the saved questions. Let's say some thank you. Thank you to Kathy for that $5 super chat. Thank you to Sarah for the gifted membership. I'm not sure if thank you for becoming a member. Um, Deacon Fatal, glad to be here. Thank you for gifting a membership. I missed that one. I grew up in a day where we didn't have to worry about it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that too. Thank you for the 4.99. And then how do you suggest people cope with the Ugh. Mm. So if people are receiving those things, I would definitely report, like I would block, and then I would seek safe community. And if you are in a state where you don't have protections, that's so every person is going to have to make different decisions for for themselves. Um And yes. Uh, okay. And so Marissa, so I voted for Kamala Harris because I um I was impressed. So it wasn't because she was a black woman. So that's not why I voted for her. I voted for her because I I thought that she seemed presidential. I think she's extremely smart. Um, I I appreciated the different it looked like she was working to not be too far one way or another. She brought like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and like she brought and then also like, people that were very far to other sides too. And her message was for the people. And I truly believed that she was for the people. You all know that I studied narcissism and I talk about narcissism. I do have concerns that Donald Trump ran so that he could avoid his criminal charges. He is not going to fit, like, all of his criminal cases are going to drop. And that was a huge motivation to run for president. I also had I also had concerns that Donald Trump would not accept the results if he lost and we would have another um, people in the government trying to overthrow the government once again. I was very concerned about that. January 6th was scary. That was a scary day. That was a scary moment, and it's my understanding that his wife texted him like, "Hey, do you think you should tell them to go home?" And he said no. And I think our president has to be concerned about everybody and not just themselves. And I do have concerns that he does what works for himself best. Those are just my concerns. Now other people are not concerned about that. Uh, and so politicians in general change who and how they speak based on who they're talking to. Like that's so politicians lie. Like that's a common thing. Politicians like, if they're talking, they're probably like, "Ugh," like and they're always gonna overpromise. So I think the things that Donald Trump has promised, I think it's overpromising some things. And um, and even Kirk said that you were live streaming as January 6th happened. Wow. Did a 50-part series on the people charged. And then so Kirk, how would you feel if he pardoned those people? I don't know that he will. I don't know that he will pardon those people. Um, um, how because to me, I don't think it should be party first. I believe it should be country first. So I don't put the Democratic Party I think I want what's best for us as a country. I want what's best for all of us. And I'm concerned. So there are women in Texas that are dying because I'm not saying this to scare people, but like this is something that's happening because doctors don't want legal charges for like they have to get on death's door for the doctor to do anything. And many of these women's they're dying, but they could have had adequate medical care before that point. And the doctors, they will not touch them. And I don't think that's right. I think that's a problem. Um Maternal health care can already be a problem for marginalized groups. And so, you mentioned that you wouldn't oppose a pardon for minor offenses, trespassing and parading, but you would oppose it for acts of violence, property destruction, the more serious offenses. Yeah. So I do think it was like a group mob mentality. So when I was in undergrad, I was a part of a peaceful protest. And at one part of the protest, we went into the dean's office, but, like, we weren't so I called my mom before the protest, and I was like, "Hey, if I'm arrested, like, please," like so but we never destroyed any property, we never did anything like that. And so nothing's being dropped, that was just a hypothetical question. Oh, so why? So Amanda, so why are all of Trump's charges being dropped? It is a rule that you can't prosecute a president. So that is a rule. So, they can't prosecute a sitting president. So, um, all the cases will go away. And so, yeah, that's that's a thing. Um, hmm, uh, and, that's where I think people have to make decisions that work best for them. I hope that answered the question that the person had. Um, I when I was talking about my mom and what my mom grew up with and what my mom did not have the voice that I have. I had to find this voice and I'm still finding it. So I don't speak out as publicly. I don't know, like I don't like my whole channel isn't about this one thing. uh but I will continue to speak out on things that are important. And Sarah, it's beyond just being authentic. So my mom, I think, had to people please to survive. And my mom would be the smartest person in the room, and she would make the generals that she was in the room with think it was their idea. And she was often the only Black person in the room. She was sometimes the only woman in the room. My mom knows that she got a job with somebody that did not like women. So my mom's name is Johnny. Johnny, like that's my mom's legal name is Johnny. And the man that offered her the job did not know that she was a woman and made her life hell when she got there. And so I just and even with all of those experiences, I still try to see and hear, and I still try because things are better for me than it was for my mom. And I wanna make things better for my son. Um, and I'm glad that he's young. If my son was older, I would be a little bit more anxious. I'm just being honest. My son's young. This is 4 years. We can do this. We can do this. And so ay. So, yes, that is a trauma response, and, I it took some therapy and for me to come out of my fawn response. So I was very much a people pleaser, and it did not feel safe for me to come out and say certain things or or do certain things. Uncivil law will probably do continue to follow things and talk about things on his channel. And Kurt, if you ever wanted to team up to host a conversation, I enjoyed. So I was on Kurt's channel talking about Sarah Boone, and it just wouldn't be a situation like this because let's bring it to court cases because a lot of us are here for court cases. I think we're still waiting on a verdict for Delphi, and a lot of people were mad at Dr. John from Hidden True Crime because he has a very strong, in my opinion, he has very strong thoughts about Richard Allen's guilt. I don't have those same strong thoughts. I did not hear all of the evidence. I did not see everything. The things I was able to hear from other people's reporting, I have concerns about some things with his case. I have concerns with things I've heard about some of the rulings, and I will continue to follow hidden true crime. Um and I think I might have it on the community tab. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact day. I don't remember the exact day. Um uh, but I think being able to listen to things that you disagree with, um, and that's where I breathe and I listen to it. And if it starts to get too emotional, I'll come back to it later. Does that make sense? Like that's understandable. But um I think when we close ourselves off to everything that we do not like, because then I want to know what the other perspective is. I want to know what the person's argument is that does support a particular candidate. I want to be able to have a a reasoned, factual debate. And because I think that's how we can learn and grow from each other. And I think that can be helpful, but it's a whole thing. Um, my neighborhood, so Rachel B, I saw your comment. Okay, so the question is, so you have a neighbor that has a flag and you're wondering how to not be triggered. So I would own that trigger, but I just wouldn't let it ruin your entire day if you can. Does that make sense? So if the thing that helps you get through the things that trigger you in this moment, it might be, whatever you can do, whatever advocacy you can do, the things that are in your control. If you want to put up your own like support or something that matters to you, so I don't feel safe to put uh a specific sign that has a political leaning on my house because that can draw hate. That can draw problems. So I personally I don't do that. I don't have anything on my car that so I also don't have anything Christian. I also don't have anything with any political leaning or anything, but that's just my own survival response. But um I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping things up. I do think talking with kids and students, I do hope instilling some of that hope, and that there are ways that we can advocate. There are ways that people can do that. Yeah. So our HOA does not allow presidential signs. So none of I don't know who any of my neighbors voted for. I do know that my state was blue, but I do not know who any of my neighbors voted for. Uh, but I feel like I gave this warning like 15 minutes ago. So, uh, um, yeah, I personally, I because people either way can get upset by seeing things, and so I don't do it. And this channel, so I never said that I wouldn't talk about politics or that I wouldn't talk about these things. There just has to be a specific reason to. So I wouldn't have hosted like a let's watch a Kamala Harris speech just because, but I will host something if it's like, okay, people are having a lot of emotions and distress about something. There's something we can learn and grow from. Like it has to be. So my attention span, this long, y'all. Okay. And psychology interests me just, and yeah, so it is what it is. But, uh, okay. All right. Just checking the chat. We're going to breathe. We're going to focus on what we can control. And we're going to learn and grow together. I will be here. I will continue to have conversations, to provide safe spaces. And I do this for fun. So if videos like this cause me to lose subs, like please know, like I'm good. Like I don't I have so mental health is I'm not laughing because it's funny. I have a very, very dark sense of humor. It's a good time to be a therapist, okay? Like my private practice is I'm good and that's my job. So I do this for fun and so if I lose some subs, if I lose some views, like I don't I don't mind because I'd rather have 10 of y'all and it be a safe space than 1,000 and the chat is like and it's a law and crime chat, okay? I refuse to have a law and crime chat. I can't do this every week. This takes a lot of energy. But we can do check-ins. We can do check-ins every so often, okay? And this is so this when we talk about being authentic, like this is how I am. Like this is me every day, all day. All right. So I'm a little uh condescending, but I don't mean it. So I'm not condescending with you all. I hope not. The person that asked me who I voted for, or why I voted for Kamala, that probably did come off condescending. I don't apologize. Um, I have a very, very dark sense of humor. The best comedians have been through so much trauma And, I am excited to move and grow forward, and so I'm so glad that this was calming. I hope that the people that were in despair, that were having trouble, I do hope it's for the whole stream. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. And so, like, it is the bad, like, because, that's where tragedy and comedy, like, that's where that comes from. The and they often have ADHD as well. And so, um so glad. Like, that seriously, like, I do this to be generally helpful, and I have to say that for my board. Um, so this was the first time I was able to cast a vote for a woman of color. I did vote for Barack Obama twice. And I don't do that only because, like, I do that if I support the person and I watch both conventions, and based on that, I decide who I vote for. I truly am an independent. There are some, so I do believe in, like, efficiency, and, like, I do believe in some things, and I'm more towards the middle than very much on one side or another, except for when it comes to human rights. I'm very much a rights-centered person. But, I just hate has no home here. Exactly. And that's just I don't have a space for hate. I don't. I don't. And so, it's do you know the opposite of hate is love? So that's what so I don't hate Donald Trump. I don't. I don't like him, but I don't hate him. It takes energy to hate, okay? Don't give that your energy. If you hate, liberals or something. Don't like let's like you don't have to give that your energy. But I can radically accept that it is what it is. He's going to be our next president. It is. And I can also be prepared to advocate for change, that I'm not going to sit back, lay down and just let people's rights be trampled. Like I'm not going to do that. And I don't know, cuz I think he's self-serving. He also likes applause. Okay, he's very much. I'm not saying he's a narcissist, like, and so if I lost some people, it's okay. And so, like, I can't, like, hate takes energy, and it's often the opposite of love. It takes emotion to hate, and I was mad. I was mad for a day, and now, like, I've fully moved to acceptance, which was why I could talk about it. Kamala's, acceptance sorry, her concession speech gave me so much peace, and we are still in this together. I am putting America first. That's what I'm putting first. Like, I'm about our country. So talk about now is now okay time to talk about xenophobia? No. Um, so, and there are countries that are standing alongside us, okay? So, if you go over to TikTok, you don't have to if you hate TikTok. There are women in all the countries that are standing alongside us, okay? There are people that are supportive. Um, uh, and I am just so thankful and grateful that, to just have a platform to talk about the things I care about and to share with you all. And there will be some people that are just here for me to talk about cases. And for those people, I will warn them at the beginning of the video, this is not a case. So this might not be the video for the person. But for the people that are here for all of it, let's go. All right. So, I'm not a preacher. So anybody that's been in a black church, you know that preachers close 5 times. Okay. And so, um, I am not a preacher, but, like, I think I'm gonna close for the 5th time, maybe 6, we'll see. Uh, so I don't think that every person that voted for Donald so I think there are some good people that believed in what Donald Trump said, and they supported him, and so I don't think that every person that voted for him is a evil person. Like, I don't believe that, and somebody was alluding to that in one of my chats, and I deleted that. So I don't think but, like, I personally so I didn't vote for the person that's endorsed by the KKK, but that's a whole other conversation. I gotta go. Love you, bye.